This is Stronger Than My Father with Marcus Minis.
Welcome to another episode of Stronger Than My Father podcast. I am your host, Marcus Minis Sr. This podcast is designed to bring more awareness to fatherhood and hopefully bring some solutions to one day make fatherhood cool. I have to thank my producer, Mr. Jim McCarthy and Jim McCarthy Voiceovers. So if you are in need of voiceover work, or if you need your own podcast set up, please reach out to Jim McCarthy and Jim McCarthy Voiceovers. I'd like to thank one of our other sponsors is Onyx Golf Apparel. If you're in need of golf apparel, please reach out to Onyx. Some of the best clothing you can wear for golfing, which I enjoy golfing. Hats, t-shirts, all the things you need to make your golf game good. So reach out to onyxgolfapparel.com. So let's go to work. I have a great guest, another White Creek alum that's with me this morning, who I have looked up to, who's doing great work in the education field. So every now and then I switch up my podcast, not to hit fatherhood so much and drown fatherhood, but get other perspectives of other things that's going on here in America. So I'd like to welcome Miss Erica Battle to our show.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
All right. Miss Erica Battle is a TED Talk speaker, which one day I hope I can get on TED Talk. Got to hook me up. She's an educational keynote speaker and an educational consultant. So we're going to talk about the educational plight of schools here. So we're both in Nashville, and I know you speak all around the United States on the plight of education. For my audience who do not know who Erica Battle is, tell my audience a little bit about yourself, children, family, and then we're going to dive into the educational world.
Okay. So I am Erica Battle. Currently, I do work in education as an educational consultant. And what I do is I work all across the country with a variety of schools, whether I'm working with leadership, helping them implement strategic plans to increase academic outcomes, or supporting teachers in the classroom so they can to give them the tools, strategies, some resources to increase student achievement in their own personal classroom. I do keynote, so I have had the opportunity to keynote some really great educational conferences. I welcome schools back for, beginning of the school year convocations. I got in this work becoming an educational consultant from being a teacher. So I was an educator first, so it wasn't something that I just did. Yeah. I taught, and education was actually a second career. Had no desire to teach anybody else's kid. None. Did not want to teach anybody else's kid, but found myself out of a job. Became a substitute teacher, and really was thinking as substitute teaching as just a bridge till I found something in my career, which was journalism and communications, public relations. And I wind up falling in love with some seventh graders that I always say hazed me until they loved me. So they gave me the blues for about 8 weeks. And then when things kind of settled, the relationships that developed in that group of students just tugged my heart, and I have been in education since. And it's interesting, those were my very first groups of students, and I still talk to quite a few of them today. I still have contact with them, and so from there I wrote a book titled Who Are You? A Guide to Help Adolescents Navigate Through the Social and Emotional Issues of Life. And it was really through that book that got me into the work now, because I published this book in 2016 at the beginning of the conversation of SEL, which is social emotional learning. So I would have people reach out to me and ask me, hey, can you come facilitate a workshop? Can you come do a PD? I started presenting at conferences, and I really had to make a decision because I was starting to miss work to do these things. So it was, do I trust God?
There you go.
And do what it seems like, he's leading me to do, or do I stay in the classroom? So of course, I trusted God. And 6.5 years later, here I am.
Well, I'm going to tell you, number one, I'm proud of you. I remember us having that conversation back in like 2017.
Yeah.
And you like, look, I'm jumping. I'm going to step out and live my dream. And that's the thing I look at when I inspire people. People I want on the show is people I look up to who are living their dream. And like I told you, that's something I'm wanting to start exploring as well. So I definitely have to piggyback and get some knowledge off of you so I can go out here and speak and bring awareness to fatherhood, which I'm really, really passionate about. Now, I know before we went on air, you said you have 3 sons.
I do.
What was that journey of raising 3 boys in today's society?
Interesting. How about that? It's interesting, but of course, I didn't do it alone.
Yes.
I'm married,
Yes.
so I do have a husband, and he's in the home. But it was still interesting because I'm a mom, and so as a mom, you want to nurture. Yeah. But I'm also a realist as a mom, that I recognize that when you're raising sons, you are raising future husbands and future providers. Yes. And so I allow allow my kids to kind of make their own decisions. So I have 3 boys, 28, 24, and 20. All 3 on totally different paths, right? Wow. The only one that has graduated college is my 24-year-old. He graduated from Rose a couple of years ago, but that's okay to me. That's fine. I tell everybody, I'm a realist. Even as an educator, I recognize that college is not everyone's calling, because even me, although I work in education now, I didn't get my first degree until 10 years after I got my high school diploma. Wow. So it wasn't as if I left high school and went straight to college. No, I had to find myself a little bit. Yeah. And so what's interesting is my 20-year-old graduated college, high school in 2021, got a when I say full, a full scholarship to play football, because he was an athlete, but he was also smart. Yeah. And after about a year of being in school, was like, I'm done with football, nor do I want to go to college anymore. I'm done with college. And so I asked him, okay, well, what's the plan? Yeah. And so he laid out his plan, and I said, okay, go for it. And so, people were, telling me, oh, you should have made him stay, and da-da-da-da. I said, listen, first of all, he's like 19, 20. I can't make him do anything, right? Yeah. I said, and second of all, he has to live his life that makes him happy, and, he has to find his way. And sometimes that is making decisions that go against the grain to find your place. I didn't, when I quit my job, like Marcus, I just up and quit. It wasn't like I had a year's worth of save. I just up and quit. It probably was not the best decision. And I tell anybody, listen, if God didn't talk to you, don't blame me if you homeless because you made the wrong decision. So, it's interesting. Their father and myself, we give them the wisdom that we can. We still try to lead and guide, but ultimately their decisions are their decisions, and they have to live with them. So, Well,
one thing I would say is that it took me 12 years just to get an associate, and I'm not ashamed to say that, but it took me time to find out what I was good at, what I wanted to do. And one thing that my parents did, they always told me that I knew one day you would figure it out. My dad told me that. He said, you'll figure it out. And it took me 12 years to figure it out. And then once I did that, it was easy to go through Tennessee State and Tribeca because I knew what I wanted to do, even though the career choice I wanted, God didn't do. Yeah. I will say that. So that's why I said, well, I guess nonprofit going to be my life right now because I wanted the corporate job. Yeah. I wanted to drive the nice car and shirt and tie and go to work with a briefcase. I had that image in my head, and I still have that image in my head all the time. But I finally had to realize, okay, this is not what God wants me to do. Yeah. All right. So either I'm going to be working in this factory or you're going to step out on faith. And I did the same thing you did. I left a job and just put my badge in the box and left and started after school and, then it went through the ups and downs. But my organization's been around for 10 years and I withstood the test of times. Yeah. So it's still a journey. And so I look up to people like you. When I see you on LinkedIn speaking, I was like, I'm going to do that one day. I'm going to talk to Erica. She going to tell me how to do that because I want to do that. But one thing I want to harp on real quick is your son's raised with a father.
Yes.
And as you know, the statistics are alarming. 1 out of 4 growing up without a father. How was that? And I need your advice because now my son's in the 9th grade and I don't want to let him go. So I'm trying to hold on these next 4 years with him. And Felicia, who was on our show recently, said you can't protect your son all the time. And you got to be able to, he going to make some decisions. He going to make some choices on his own. But how did your husband kind of rear them and put him in position to be successful?
You know, one of the things you have to recognize is every child is different.
Okay.
And every child needs a different type of support. Mm-hmm. And just because of what I do and how mm-hmm. I see, so now I'm about to bridge the education and raising kids. I think sometimes we let our kids go too soon.
I never heard that one.
We do.
Too soon.
We let them go too soon. And just because they're getting into high school mm-hmm. And they are developing a sense of responsibility and mm-hmm. needing to make decisions, the question is, do we have to be hands off? Sometimes we're hands off too soon. Mm-hmm. And that's where unwise, irresponsible decisions come from, because it's like, well, they got to figure it out. But who said they had to figure it out at 16? Mm-hmm. Who says they have to figure it out at 17? Why can't we still walk hand in hand with our children, easing up as appropriate? Because some kids need more guidance than others, and that's okay. And I think, you know, it's interesting because my 24-year-old still lives at home. Mm-hmm. When he graduated college, you know, one of the first things, and he has a great job. So if he wanted to buy a house, he totally could, because he has a great job and just got a raise. Okay.
All right.
You know, and so when he graduated college, he got the job shortly thereafter. But as a parent, I asked him, I said, do you really just have to buy a house right now just because that's, you know, what culture says or is expected? I said, I don't mind you living at home, which I don't. I don't mind him living at home. Does he contribute to the house? Yeah, we do make him pay a little bit of something. But him living at home has allowed him to grow an investment account, has allowed him to grow his savings, has allowed him to live not necessarily a stress-free life, but has allowed him to continue to have the guidance of me and his dad, because he still has decisions that he makes. And a lot of times he'll come ask us, what do y'all think? You know, we'll give him our opinion and then he'll make the decision. So the question is, do we have to let them go? Because when I look at a lot of our high school students, and I know you're talking, you know, we're talking about fatherhood and education, but when I look at a lot of our high school students, they make some of the bad decisions that they make because we have let them go so soon, because society has said, well, eventually they have to figure it out. But do they have to figure it out alone?
And I think, no, I think that, you know, my son, which I have no problem saying, he has autism, excuse me. He has a learning disability. And I was telling my wife the other day, you know, I'm prepared to stick with him as long as he needs me. I'm not going to say, okay, at 18, you got to go. I just want to be sure that as a dad, that's why I mentioned your husband, as a dad, I feel like it's my job. I know mamas has their roles and responsibilities, but my dad protected us. Now, we made mistakes. I didn't listen to him all the time, but for the most part, he protected me. And even now, I'm 47, father of 2 boys. You know, my dad's all, anytime I call him, you okay? You need something? So you're right. So I am prepared to keep my son as long as he needs help. And then I want to start let him go a little bit. We just bought him a cell phone in 9th grade. And it's been a journey just these few months, him having his own cell phone, because he calls for no reason. He texts for no reason. And I want to be sure as dads, you know, as a dad, I protect him. But now when you say high school kids, and I've mentoring some now in high school that has no father. And then we see the choices that they make. And in your opinion, for raising 3 boys, do you think that father role was so key for your sons with today's society? And then we're going to go off into education.
I think so, because, you know, their dad was very active. So I laugh because all 3 of my boys were high school athletes and played football. And our anniversary is during football season. We got married in September. Ask me when we celebrated our anniversary.
I don't know when.
When
How
our
can you do
kids
that?
graduated either high school or college.
Wow.
My anniversary was celebrated at a football field, homecoming, on the road, because their dad felt it was important for him to be there, no matter what. And so I just had to relent and be like, okay, that's what, happy anniversary, at the football game, But at the same time, there is a balance. So I'm not saying you have to hold on to them always, but there is a balance. There is a balance of, here are your options. You can do option B or option A, and but each one of them has their own set of consequences, but it's up to you to make the wisest choice. But it's funny. My husband is more of the nurturer, and I am the disciplinarian. Like when my kids were in school, the teachers were directed, call me. Don't call him first, call me.
What?
Because my husband tells me all the time, it's so good we did not have girls. Oh my gosh. Because I am the hammer, and because he's a counselor.
Yeah.
So my husband is an alcohol and drug counselor.
Okay.
So he wants to talk about it and get to the root.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk. Like, why'd you do that? That didn't make sense.
Yeah.
And so we balance each other out that way, because I'm true disciplinarian, and he's like, okay, let's talk about it, because he didn't make great choices either. Because and I think the balance is my father was in our home until middle school for me.
Okay.
And my parents got a divorce in middle school. So I can tell a difference on how I behaved and how I felt as a daughter having my father in the home up until that time, and how things switched for me. And so one thing that the marriage of me and my husband has provided our children is stability and structure and trust. Yeah. And so what all kids want, no matter their environment, no matter their socioeconomic status, they want stability, and they want to be trust. They want some trust, and they want some consistency. So when you see kids in school acting out, they're acting out because they've never had that structure. Yeah. They don't have that consistency.
There you go.
And they don't trust the people in front of them.
Yeah.
And so having certain relationships in their life in the formative years are so important. Exactly. Because it does more than just provide wisdom, but it provides those things that allow us to make good decisions and make good sound decisions, and not decisions based off of a moment.
You got it. And I remember growing up, how my parents, like my dad, we was around him all the time. And my parents been married almost 52 years now. So I'm very close. And my wife tells me all the time, and you're going to laugh at this. She said, you can't be like your dad. And like that's a trigger, because every day I try to live my life like him. And I want to raise my kids like him, because he raised us right. But I've had several guests do therapy sessions on me, and it turns into a therapy session, and it's like, Mark, you have to be your own self. But I said, I don't know no one else to be like but him. So now when I see these young men acting up in school and acting up here, I always, and please, if I'm wrong, tell me, because I know you're an educator. I said, where's the daddy? Because I knew growing up, if the teacher said, do I need to call your daddy? I was scared. I wasn't scared if he said, I'm going to call mama. They called my mother first, and then my dad would get me when I got home. My boys, I told the teacher, now I'm like you. You have any issue, just, well, my oldest don't have no problem with. My youngest has a mouth. And I just say, tell him you're going to call his daddy. And that's why I feel like, for me as an advocate for fatherhood, you have that father in home, you have a better shot. I say you have 80% chance of your child going right. But we can hit fatherhood all day. I'm going to go to your profession in education. Okay. The first thing we talked about that's a real hot button today is two things: reading literacy, and the biggest thing was coming out of COVID. Kids wasn't learning, kids were failing, all these issues out of COVID. And I guess for me as a parent who wants my kids to do right, my kids were fine. and I know you're gonna kill me on this because my kids is in a 2-parent home, and I understand. I don't fully understand single motherhood. I do not. But why do you feel that kids were really failing coming out of COVID?
So let me say this, and don't be mad.
I ain't gonna be mad. This is your perspective. This your show.
Not every kid that came out of a 2-parent household was doing well either.
Okay.
Not every parent who said they were doing what they were supposed to do was really doing what they were supposed to do.
Okay. All right.
Not every child that came out of a single parent household did bad.
Okay.
Sometimes they did just as well as kids who were supported. See, it doesn't matter the household. What matters is the support.
All right, I got you.
Period.
I got you.
It doesn't matter if you're coming out as a single parent household, your grandmama, your auntie, you're in a foster care environment. If the support is there, it really doesn't matter.
Okay.
So, it's nothing wrong with a 2-parent household because my kids grew up in a 2-parent household.
Okay.
So, it's nothing wrong with that. So I'm not knocking that at all, but I'm also not going to knock the single parent, man or woman, mom or dad, who was just as committed as the 2 parents.
Yeah.
Because we don't know the circumstance.
Okay.
We don't know the circumstance. And a lot of the learning that did not occur after COVID, especially kids who were having to learn in their formative years. Yeah. And when I say formative, I mean kindergarten, 1st, and 2nd grade, some of the foundational years where you are truly honing in on those letters, the letter sounds, phonics, blending those words. How easy would it be to teach a child where their first experience of school was going to be kindergarten, but they had to learn it in their home that was already not set up for learning before school started and really was not conducive to learning when school started during COVID, and I'm having to learn something that a lot of times you need to be in my face so I can see your lips say the word right? And so we can't all blame it on the household or the teacher. So I'm gonna be honest.
Okay.
And not everybody's gonna agree with me.
Okay.
We have to stop blaming. We have to stop saying it's the parents' fault, and we have to stop saying it's the educator's fault, because guess what? Every person, every stakeholder has a part in the success of the student. And until we stop blaming, because what the blame game does makes it divisive, we'll never get to come together. Okay. You know why? Because parents, educators will say, well, the parents don't care. They're never here. They're never involved. But then the parents will say, well, schools don't make it inviting for me to want to come to be involved. So when do we stop the narrative that is one person's fault or another, or we're kind of putting the stakeholder, and I call stakeholders because of course I'm an educator. So when I think about stakeholders, I think about students, I think about parents, I think about the teachers, I think about leaders, I think about the community. So at some point, as stakeholders in education, we have to stop wanting to place blame. So I never place blame. You know why? Because I don't know everyone's situation.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm a child, although this is about to blow some people's mind. Okay? I'm about to blow some people's mind. Although I am a successful educational thought leader, because I do have schools and school districts that value my opinion, that ask me to come sit and help them devise and implement plans so their students are successful. This is an oxymoron because I didn't even graduate high school on time. But no one knew my situation. No one knew that I went from a 2-parent household to a 1-parent household. Financially, things switched. My mom, who didn't work full-time initially, now had to take on a full-time job. I had younger siblings. You got me emotional.
Hey, that's what you're about here. This is the truth.
Because no one knew what was going on or took the time to figure out, okay, changed that it would just became a blame game. So at some point, we have to stop wanting to place a blame and find solutions. So I'm a solutions-focused educator. Okay? Our parents aren't coming. The question is why? Is the environment inviting for parents? Because, listen, I can go deep.
That's what this podcast is about.
You, a lot of our children's parents have faced some type of educational trauma where they're triggered when you call them about their kids because it triggers a memory in school that maybe was not fair.
Wow, I didn't think of that.
And most people don't.
I didn't even think of that.
So when parents get defensive and don't want to hear what the teacher has to say, it might not even be necessarily about the teacher. It could be about their own personal experience in school. Because, see, me personally, although I'm not triggered by those things anymore, I could have been one of those parents that when you call me about my son, I'm going to believe everything that my son says because of my experience in education. So how many times have we stopped to really dig deeper, right?
Yeah, because most people don't. Most people like, you get mad, everybody get mad, and then you have no solution.
No solution. So here my question is, who loses out?
The child.
The kid.
Yeah.
So now the kid knows how to play one against the other, and what begins to happen, they still don't get the education they need to get out of the situation that they are in. Yeah. So we have to determine that we want to become solution focused and put the blames aside and say, okay, let's put this to the side. What's going to be best for the students inside of this building? Yeah. How can we help them, make up the deficits that they have from COVID? Because basically, I don't call it a learning loss. You can't lose something you never had. Yeah. What our students left out of COVID with was learning deficits that we now need to address. Let's address the deficits and stop saying, well, they should have got it in first grade. Well, they should have. Okay, they didn't get it. Yeah. Let's address it, because if they never get it, the learning never occurs because the deficits continue to grow as kids get older.
Well, they have this promising scholar. You put the bomb on it. Drop the hammer. Good knowledge, good nuggets. Let me ask you this then. Is the promising scholar, you think, in just your honest opinion, and that's what this podcast is about, is being honest, do you think that's helping fill the gaps, or you just think it's a place where parents can drop their kids off and say, hey, I need you away from here for a few hours, and it's the summertime?
All right, so I try not to make blanket opinions when I really am not involved in the planning or the delivery. Okay, is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair.
I do think there should be more intentional focus on addressing gaps beyond putting kids on ed tech programs that are designed to address gaps. Yeah. Because research has shown the tier 1 education delivered by an educator will erase a deficit faster than putting kid on a technology program that is meant to erase a deficit. Okay, because see, I can zone in and out of a computer and answer questions. Yeah, I do think that our kids should get experiences, and I know that Promising Scholars does that. Yeah, and that is something that shouldn't stop. You know why? Because we have a lot of children in poverty that would not leave their neighborhoods if it was not for some of these programs that take them on experiences. Now, do I think there should be a more intentional focus on how we address the gaps? Yeah. Yes. Okay. In Promising Scholars and in the school day. Okay. Period. And until we make an intentional focus, meaning I'm intentionally looking at data and I recognize, okay, vocabulary is an issue for my students. Well, how do I address their vocabulary deficit? It's not by telling them to look up more words. It's not by saying we're going to have deer time. No, it's by teaching them hey guys, this is how you acquire new vocabulary. When authors write, they leave you clues inside of the text that allow you to understand what this word means. Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to show you and teach you how to recognize the different type of clues. So when you are reading and you come across a word you don't know, you now know what to do to determine what that word means. That's intentional.
Okay. Well, one thing I want to mention is, and I'm not trying to knock Promise Scholars. I was just getting your educational opinion on it.
So I'm not going to make a, because I understand the design of it.
Yeah.
Just like okay, let's talk about this. The tutoring that they did, what was it called?
A homework hotline?
No. It was like some high intense tutoring where it was like, we're going to do, oh my gosh, it was something.
That came after COVID?
It came after COVID.
Okay, I didn't hear anything about that.
Yes, you did.
I probably did.
Yes,
you know it. Okay.
In fact, they said it so much it was getting on my nerves. Like, oh my gosh, if they mention this again, no program is effective without intention.
Okay.
So we'll just say that.
That's fine.
Without intention, it's no. The kids are not going to increase. I appreciate the purpose of Promising Scholars.
Yeah.
But until things are done with a little more intentionality and a little more focus on addressing the gaps that our students really have, we really won't see the effectiveness of any program, in Erica Battle's opinion.
Well, good point. As we get close to wrapping this up, let me ask you a question. If you were sitting in front of a parent who was struggling with helping a child with their reading, just say reading, and reading comprehension is big. My oldest son, my wife helps him because I get intense with him. All right, let's read this sentence. Tell me what is it about. Now, I get mad. Like, dude, if you can memorize all these football players, why you can't memorize this? And so my wife's like, hold up, you're being too mean to him. And when you being mean, because I'm serious about education, like I'm dead serious. Like my youngest son does the spelling word. You better not get one wrong. Like
Listen, I'm give a man some grace. Give him some grace, Marcus.
You know what? Let me tell you why. You said something earlier that triggered me, and I was like, wow, she killed it. It was my struggling in education. I struggled at Whites Creek. Barely graduated. I had to take biology with rest in peace to Miss Young. I had to take biology my last year, and I graduated. I finished biology with a 69.5. And I'm in class for sophomores. So they ready to go tell everybody Marcus ain't graduating. And that's the only class I need to pass. So I don't want my failures to fall on my boys. And so when you said that earlier, you said that sometime when you get a call from school and stuff like that, it's a trigger. So for me is that I want my sons to go farther than me. I don't want them struggling for 12 years to go get their college degree. So you can't fail. So maybe sometime I'm intense. My wife will say, "Oh, MJ, come on, let me work with you," and she'll do it more calmly. And then, with MJ autism, you can't yell and stuff like that. Triggers him. So I just don't want him to fail. That's all. And I told my wife, I'm trying to be me. I just don't want. That's why I ask these education questions. Sometimes it make me look like I'm a smart aleck, but I don't want my kids to fail. So if I'm mentoring, when I was here in the after school program, when I was helping kids with their homework, I was tough on them. They were crying. Look, you gotta get it right.
You can't be in here scaring the kids.
Look. I'm saying, Erica, once I figured I wanted to do the college, I took education so serious. And so when COVID hit, I was still on my boys. They'd be on their laptop. I would sit there beside them.
But that's because you had the opportunity to. Not every person, just because we were supposed to stay at home, stayed at home. You still had parents, especially with our kids in poverty, who still had to go work at the gas station, who still had to go work at Walmart while their kids were learning. Because normally their kids would be in the school building while they were at work. So we can't fault them. Because let me tell you something. This is what I truly believe. Every parent wants their kid to be successful. I don't care where they are. They want their kid to be successful. I have not met a parent, no matter if the kid is struggling or successful, who has ever said, I don't want them to be successful. I don't want them to learn. Every parent wants their child to learn. But every parent does not have the skill set to help their child learn, and that's where the teachers come in. And so as educators, we have to stop assuming that our parents don't want their kids to be successful. And I will say this, every child that enters a school wants to learn until they are not. And what I mean by that is every child is a learner until you start giving them busy work and it's nothing for them to learn. Every child wants to learn. Until they don't. And a lot of times it is because we're too busy trying to figure out who is at fault. Instead of saying, how do we solve this together? How do we make our school environments inviting for parents so they do show up? How do we stop making parents feel as if they're the issue? How do we stop blaming teachers for student deficits? We have to get, at some point, solution focused so we can address the deficits. And even as a parent who is looking to work with their student, if they're here's the thing, parents don't like to ask teachers for help because oftentimes, and I'm not going to say all the times, oftentimes they feel inferior once they leave because they ask for the help. But then they feel as if teachers are like, you don't know how to help your kid? No, I don't. But then when I come ask for the support, the way that the support has given has now discouraged me from wanting to do anything else, even though I may need it.
Well, one thing I didn't realize, and then I told you done turned into a therapy session with Marcus. I take stuff serious. I just believe, for me as a father, it's my job. I understand what my wife's role is. I understand her responsibility. I just feel like my kids can't fail, and they can't fail in life. And I know they're going to make mistakes. I got to be there to pick them up. But when it comes to education, I take that super serious with them. And ain't no tablets or phones if you get bad grades. And ain't none of that. My youngest, Dad play tablet. You got to get every spelling word right, and it better sound right. Or you ain't touching nothing. And I do it. And my wife be like, Mark, you cannot be a drill sergeant with your
Marcus,
kids.
you got to get these kids some grades.
But they make all A's. They make A's. Because I didn't make them growing up. I was talked about as the dumb child. Growing up, my younger brother and my younger sister was like the smart kids. Me and my older brother was barely making it. So I was a CD student through most of Whites Creek. My kids are not going to be that. And so it's because you triggered something when you said it was my childhood, and that's exactly right. It was my childhood that I want to be sure that they make it. So any kid I mentor, I take it serious. And I know we got to wrap up. I take it serious because I want you to make it. I want you to make it.
Just because, let me tell you something. A's and B's doesn't mean I'm going to make it. A's and B's means I did the work. That don't mean I'm going to make it.
Well, I know that.
That does not mean I'm going to make it. Do you know that most millionaires, are not college graduates? Because that schoolwork does not determine if I'm going to make it.
Well, it's my job for that.
Well,
as a dad, to be sure my kids be in position. They're in position to make it.
Yeah, but A's and B's don't determine that.
No, they don't. But it makes a parent feel good when their child is doing good grades.
Oh, you just said it. It makes the parent feel good. It makes the parent feel good.
Jim, are we done? Because she ready to drill me now, man.
It makes the parent feel good. And so what we have to recognize is A's and B's don't necessarily determine if my child is learning to the highest of their ability.
Then what determines if a child learns? I don't know that.
Can your child critically think? And can they recognize the truth? Can they read an article and pull out what was said? Can your child have a conversation that's in depth and answer a question beyond A and B? See, that's when learning occurs. See, we forget that A's and B's don't necessarily determine if we are allowing our students Listen, you done got me started.
It
It does not determine if our children are truly learning to be critical thinkers, because being able to critically think is what's going to help them navigate life, not A's and B's. And so if our children are not critically thinking and they get A's and B's on everything, then it's a problem. That means they are not being challenged as learners.
That's kind of weird for me. That's kind of weird for me because I guess, like you said, and man, I wish we had more time. I can't wait you to come back.
I just have to come back.
You come back with that when that book come out, because I'm getting triggered too now, because I'm thinking about my old childhood growing up, and it's triggering me where I'm like, hold up, they have to do this. But here's the thing, you are right. On 2 points is
just 2?
2 points right now that I give you this one. The critical thinking, you're right. If Jordan is trained to memorize, that's what Jordan is trained. MJ's trained to memorize. I'm gonna memorize this. I'm gonna get 100 on my spelling test. I think it is.
No, it's not. It's learning to memorize. It's learning is a Listen, honey, you want to talk education? See, learning takes a progression. I'll take walking. As a baby, when we are learning to walk, we go through stages. The stages is I'm first scooting. Mm-hmm. I'm on my knees. Then I learn how to stand. I take a step. I fall. I take 2 more steps. I fall again. That's called a learning progression. Mm-hmm. If I can memorize something that you just told me, what you have taught me to do is memorize. Because that's the lowest level in the depth of knowledge. So now you got to educate on here. I want to talk education. So just because your kid is getting A's and B's means nothing. That means they were able to memorize at the lowest level of the depth of knowledge. Now, when your child begins to progress with learning, that means I might not get that necessarily right, because now not only are you asking me to memorize the information, you're now asking me to analyze and evaluate and justify the information that you have given me. Mm-hmm. You're not stopping me at memorizing. So let's not get it twisted that A's and B's means I'm a learner. A's and B's means that I have recognized what it takes to pass this class, but you are not challenging me as a learner to take what you have given me, to think about it, analyze it, to evaluate it, and to justify why I need that in real life. Mm-hmm. How does that help me solve problems? That's when learning occurs, when I can take the things that I have memorized, solve problems, and find solutions to real world issues, whether the solutions have a predictable outcome or not. Mm-hmm. It started with the foundational learning. When we start having that higher level of thinking. See, that's why a lot of kids don't like school, because all we want them to do is memorize and get an A. But the moment we ask them to critical think, then that's when learning occurs and they have the most engagement. The problem with that is not a controllable outcome that most teachers like. See, I can control the answer that you put on this comprehension worksheet, but I can't control your thought process when I ask you to take the information that I have given you and demonstrate it for me how you have mastered the learning based on what's comfortable for you. See, that's an uncontrollable outcome. And that's where we lack in the public school system. We don't allow our students to engage in things that allow them to truly be creative and solve problems using the content. So now the things that are taught in school mean nothing, because we don't even recognize how we use those things in our daily life. So A's and B's to me mean nothing if you have not allowed me to truly use the information that you have taught me in a authentic way, is a good word to put it.
Well, now you got me thinking. Now you making A's and B's. Now we're going to. Well, here's what I would think. Here's my point, and I'm done. I know we got to go. It's still hard for me. My son come on anything under A and B, I'm upset. But what I will do is what I also do is every day when they get out of school, I say, what's the one thing that you learned today you didn't learn yesterday? I say that every day to both of them, and they have to tell me something.
That's a good question.
It ain't no tablets, no tablet phones, nothing.
I'm gonna have to work with you on that.
And then they're gonna go home and read. Because I see a lot of kids, these phones and tablets are destroying their lives. And as a dad, I can't allow that phone and tablet to destroy my son.
Yeah.
It's not going to do it. Not under my house. Now, we can read, we can comprehend. They playing with it today. Tomorrow, they know it's up. We gonna read.
It has to be a balance, and I'm gonna tell you why.
Okay.
This is why it has to be a balance. Technology is not going away, and until we teach kids how to use technology appropriately, it will take over their lives. Because what happens is, if it becomes a give and take, when I get it, I can't help but consume it. Now I crave it. But if you're teaching me to be a digital citizen, that's what's missing. Are we teaching kids what it means to be a digital citizen and how to balance technology versus real world? Because see, here's another thing. That's where the lack of social awareness and understanding how to communicate is lacking as well. Because no one has been taught how to balance the use of technology alongside of just real world human interaction. And so there has to be a balance. And if you just say you can't do this, when I get it, I overconsume it because there has never been a balance to it. Technology is not going away. It's going to advance even further. And if we are not teaching kids how to be smart digital citizens, what it means to be a global citizen, because that's what technology is allowing us to be, global citizens. No more am I just now secluded to or isolated to my area. I'm global now because technology is allowing me to do that. But we have to teach kids where is the balance. And until we do that, we'll always lag behind. Sorry.
Well, I hate we have to stop this one because we done got the oils and the juices flowing, but we have to stop. I gotta get ready for my next guest. But you are right. I'm gonna do better with my balance. I'm gonna do better with the comprehension. I wish my wife was here because she would have drilled me even more. She would probably expose me because she's like, Mark is a hard dad. And it's because I think about my childhood. I think about when I was called dumb and smart, couldn't make it. And I said, if I ever have kids, they're going to make it. They're not going to make some of the same mistakes that their dad made. So, Eric, I want to thank you coming on the show. Call me as soon as you get your book. You're coming back for part 2 because this was great.
Yeah, great conversation.
Was great. You really inspired me. Continue to speak around the world, speak the truth. Keep doing that. And I'm going to keep following you, and I'm proud of you, of what you're doing. And when I see you on Instagram speaking and social media, I am filled with joy.
Thank you.
Because you are doing the things that you said when we was up in that room upstairs, you said you was going to do. You doing it. And I'm proud of you. So God bless you. Thank you, and come back soon.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Stronger Than My Father podcast. If you like what you hear, please click the subscribe button and continue to follow us. Continue to help us fight for fatherhood and make fatherhood cool. Again, Jim McCarthy, thank you for all your work you do with producing. And I have my photographer, Matilda Watt Smith, here taking photos. God bless you. See you on another episode of Stronger Than My Father podcast.